Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Liam, the Prove It Guy, author of Limitation is a Mirage. In this podcast, I will be sharing with you actionable tips, routines, and insights that I have gathered over 20 years of extensive study with masters, experts, and world-class performers. My hope with this podcast is to save you time, money, and frustration, helping you fast-track your way to mastery. Hey guys, welcome to this bonus episode of the Limitation is a Mirage podcast. In this podcast, I speak with Tom Lamont from the Chum Sut Fighting Academy. I've studied with Tom for about 14 years. When I first started, I just wanted to learn Wing Chun, and then I realized that he was actually a true martial artist. So there's a difference between a martial artist and someone that does martial arts, and we go into that in the podcast. So we also delve into his training, how he got the way he is within his martial arts, why he trains the way he trains, how he trains the way he trains, the way he deals with his students, and what he tries to bring out of them. Hey guys, welcome to this bonus episode of the Limitation is a Mirage podcast. I'm here with Thomas Lamont, or Tom Lamont, depending on how long you've known him, I guess. He has been a mentor and coach of mine for, I think it's about 14, 15 years, maybe even longer. I should have thought about this beforehand, but you started showing me Wing Chun at the start. I didn't actually know what I was going up to learn at all. I just wanted to go, and I heard that this guy was good at martial arts and I went up to find out like what I could learn. But once I got there, I discovered that it was more about martial arts. Like, your background was incredible. Like, I was trying to say this before the interview, catch as can. I think I got it right that time. You had that, and then Vale Tudo, and you'd been to Brazil, and you had just done some incredible things. But it was your philosophy about the martial art that really, personally, is what really drew me into it. So that's something I kind of wanted to touch on. But with you, so were you always like that when you started training? Were you a martial artist, or did you, like, I know when I started, I just wanted to be able to kick ass, and then I realized that's not what it's about at all. So did you transition, or what way did you start it?
No, I think like all young guns, when they come out at the start, we all want to be able to kick ass and do what we're doing. So I think there's a rites of passage that you go through, and you earn your stripes, and then you realize there's more to this, than just punching and kicking and stuff. It's been said before. I mean, Bruce Lee said it. I think allegedly it's been quoted that after 20 years he learned something. The punch is a punch and the kick's a kick.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it than what he actually meant. So, but I was always a thinker. So I like, to know why I'm doing something. So very quickly for me, the why was the theory, and the what was the practical. And that stood me the test of time. I always, why we're doing this, why we're doing that. I used to really annoy some of my old coaches. Like I remember in particular in Taekwondo, why we're doing this pattern. You need that pattern for your next belt. Oh, that's not what I mean. I mean, why are we actually doing this pattern? I just told you. Do you know what it is? It doesn't matter. Okay. But then later on, I decided, right, if I'm going to learn a pattern of movements or even a movement, I want to know in depth about it. So for me, I started off scratching the surface, like what I found. And then I bought a spade and I started digging. And these days I'm a JCB and I'm digging down there, and goodness knows what I'll find. But my students think I'm building my cave that I keep threatening to go to. But they're not best pleased that I'm going to this cave. But hey ho, so that was for me. No, so it wasn't right off the bat. I think for me, I had to prove to myself, not to anybody else, to myself, that I could actually fight and handle myself if need be. And then very quickly I realized why I was doing it. There's a very deep philosophical, spiritual path with the martial arts, which I don't know a lot of people get into, and I latched on to that very quickly. But I mean, who wants to listen to that, when you're teaching? But as I say, no, it was more of a rites of passage for me, Liam, yeah.
That, just when you're saying who wanted to listen to that was, I remember my first lesson. I actually couldn't drive at the time, so I got convinced someone to drive me up the road. So I drove up the road just over an hour, and I had been learning Wing Chun,
through a book and a wooden dummy by myself, just battering this wooden dummy, and loved kung fu movies, and like the whole idea of I loved all the old school ones where they had like the medicine men that were healing, but they would like the Robin Hood type version. And then in the first lesson, there was about 2 or 3 wee nuggets that creeped through where I was like, this guy, it's not just about the fight. There's something, I didn't know what I was listening to, if that makes sense, in between your terrible, not terrible jokes.
Those are terrible.
Like, they were like daddy jokes before you were old enough to be saying daddy jokes.
Well, they've actually progressed now, because they're the same jokes, but they're grander jokes now.
Well, yeah, that's what happens with age, you see. And that was one of the things I loved about the session too. You might go through something like that was mentally and physically tough, like we'd learn a new pattern or whatever it was we were learning, and then all of a sudden the whole room would shift because you would tell a ridiculous joke, and it would bring everybody that was feeling overwhelmed back down to like, you're actually a human and not some sort of Wing Chun-esque robot, which I think people miss when they go to martial arts. I've been to many different clubs, and it was very regimented. It was like they took the martial aspect and forgot about, like you said, there's more than just the fighting. There's there is the physical, but there's the mental, and then of course the spiritual as well, which is why I've only done 20 years, but it's why I've stuck at it and I've practiced no matter where I am or what I'm doing. Do you think that's why people are able to connect with you more, because your understanding is more than just martial, it's everything?
I'm a great believer in like attracts like. So if you want to be a fighter, then every single training session that you do should take you towards that goal.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be the best grappler in the world, then every session should be taking you towards that goal. But for me, it's more about the martial art. And I think there's a misunderstanding, and that's why I said you better rites of passage. It's martial art, so martial comes first. That's why I said, yeah, I want to learn how to fight first. Mm-hmm. The art side of it, okay, there's a bit more to it than that, okay? So when you get a coach who knows what they're doing, and they say to you, this is quite simple, wait till you show you, you can rest assured it's going to be the most complicated thing that you've tried to do in your entire life. But the coach, you look so damn simple. It's like, you understand that? Yes, Sifu. Show me. Could you show me that again, please? You don't understand at all. And that's the problem. People are too much of a hurry. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, and as I said to you, the martial art end of things, some people get the martial and some people get the art, but they don't get martial art. They haven't got, talked about before the interview started, the equilibrium. They don't have that balance. Some people's all fight, and some people's all tree hugging. Mm-hmm. And both have a time and both have got a place. So I actually I got into that and wanted to see what that was about, the martial art anything. The jokes, they're extremely bad and they don't wear good with time. It's the same jokes, and there's a film, and whether the film's any good or not, it's relevant to the question. It's called An Officer and a Gentleman, and funny enough, it's actually on the television a couple of nights ago. So they started the film, and then Richard Gere has his rite of passage, and he's sitting at the end of the film, and the start of the film and the end of the film is the same. Mm-hmm. Just goes back to the start again, and that's what happens in martial arts. You go back to the start. But what happens? You go around in a circle. But when it's just about to link in, you go in a wee bit. You start off with a big circle, and then eventually you've got the minimal circle, and you realize, that's what I've been aiming at all along. Like a good archer, he's aiming for the bullseye all along. He's trying to cut away all this other stuff to get straight into the bullseye. But you can't walk into a shop and buy 40 years worth of experience.
No.
You've got to go in. And coincidentally, every coach that I've stuck with, shall we say, has got three things in common. And as I said earlier on, like attracts like. Okay, mm-hmm. I've been very blessed in my life with good coaches, and because like attracts like, and they have a sense of humor. They don't take themselves too serious. This is the problem. I'm standing from the class. I'm this. I'm that. No, I'm the most important person in the building. Actually, you're not. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we have to have the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Without the students, there wouldn't be a coach. Without the coach, there wouldn't be students. So you need the balance again. Now, if we're saying who's more important, from my point of view, if I've got 10 students, I'm one, they're 10. So 10 is more important than one, so therefore you're important to me. So don't be putting me somewhere in that. So they have a good sense of humour. I laugh at their jokes because I've heard them all before, because I've heard mine all before. Okay, they're very knowledgeable. Okay, so they don't just say, right, you're probably the first one in the building and the last one out when they were training. And they have faith. So that's the three things that they have. And the coaches that I have today, every single one has got those three things. So that's your physical, your mental, and your spiritual. And that's very important to me.
Yeah. It's like you said, like attracts like. Because I remember when I first started coming, my lesson was at 11 o'clock. So I would land 5 to 11 to be ready. And then I noticed that you had classes before me and you're too distracted to put me out of the room. So I would come in a wee bit earlier and I would get to see. And I used to come in then. By the end, I was coming in half an hour early and writing notes. Everything you were teaching, I was going home. I remember the LSD training. Do you remember it? It was like a workout you just did repeatedly for 20 minutes. And I remember watching your guys all do it.
Does it? The LSD training?
Long, slow distance. That's what it was. That sounds.
Well, again, that respect where respect's due. That wasn't any of my doing. That was I discovered that in a bit of research of a guy called Mark Hatmaker. And Mark Hatmaker wrote quite a few books, and I quite like the stuff that he was doing because he talks about the old bare knuckle boxing in the old school.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was asking you, well, what do you want to be known as? Personally, I want to be known as a modern day traditionalist.
Yeah, I remember you saying that a lot.
So I got that off him. I liked it. I went, okay, well, so I don't take credit for something that's not mine. So that was his actually. So it was but people had never seen it like that before.
Yeah,
so,
it wasn't for me. It wasn't the actual exercises because I'd been training at that stage for a few years, and it wasn't anything magical. It was the fact that you were doing it, and in the class with your guys. It wasn't like you were saying, right, guys, do that. I would come in and you were busting yourself with them. And I remember a thing I used to always think when I first started studying was, I want to study what I need to study, but I also want to study what the masters study, what the mentors study. So I was looking and thinking, if Tom's doing that, then maybe that's something I should be at. And then I would go home that night and write it out on my whiteboard and then try to do it. Be like, how, this man's doing this for 20 minutes. I'd never done anything repeatedly for 20. You always had wee breaks in martial arts. You do your form for 3 minutes and then have we seat. But it was how you had subtly taught me to do more than you were asking without saying, I don't know if that was your intention or whatever, but just the fact that I was being around you and seeing, like you would have done that session, then you did my session, and then you would have one straight after, and you would be like finishing the conversation with me, putting on your gloves to go into your next session. And I was like, this is, if I want to be like this guy, then this is what I need to continue to. It wasn't a case of go and do your hour and go home is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, as we said earlier on, are you doing martial arts or are you doing martial arts?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing martial arts is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's not like people seeing that as conditioning. To me, it wasn't conditioning. It's what you do.
Yeah.
The ultimate aim at the end of the day is your every movement is martial art.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing as one martial art that has everything. No one person that has everything. So coaches need coaches. Students need coaches. So we all the sooner that we all realize that we're all in this interdependent web of connection rather than we're all a single entity, the better.
Yeah.
I don't rely on anybody. All right, okay, well, you do. We all, when you start getting right down to the nitty gritty of it, we all rely on everybody. We all rely on each other. But I'm trying to build that into my students. where they realize, you know, we're all in this together, you know, so let's do it together. So I don't like titles, but if you're going to say a leader, well, then leaders lead, and leaders lead from the front. So in my whole life, my philosophy, rightly or wrongly, was no one is ever going to be able to say to me that I can't do that, because I'll do it with you. So when you've got reaching a lot of kids classes as well now, and you're down doing an exercise, and it's like, what age are you? Oh, I'm 17. What age are you? Oh, I'm 17. What age are you? I'm 17. Right, you're 54. I'm still older than the three is put together, and I'm doing. Get on with it. Okay. I think this is the problem. There isn't any characters anymore. People are scared to be a character. You know, this is why it worked for Conor McGregor. He's a why you like him or lose him, he's a character.
Yeah.
You got to give him that. Like, he's a character. Mm-hmm. He preached same as Chris Eubank. Like him or lose him, promoter's dream. Puts bums on seats.
Yeah.
Half the crowd's there to see him getting bait. Half the crowd's there to see him win. Mm-hmm. Got a full house, and that's so you're trying to get that. But again, I'm not saying that's right or it's wrong. When I did a bit of pro wrestling with the guys, I think they were trying to say, "Oh, I was just coming in nice, quiet, whatever," and then when I hit the ring, then go. I mean, that was good fun as well. I was invited to Japan actually to go into the pro wrestling tour with them for 6 months. Not a lot of people know that.
I didn't know that.
I couldn't go. And then there's a guy called Oric Williams. He's passed away now, and he ran a show over in Wales. And what they were doing, we're taking 2 professional wrestlers, and they were a bit like the Ultimate Fighter house, and they were going to be trained by these 2 wrestlers, and then they would compete, and then the 2 guys who training would compete. And they offered me to do that, and I said no, because at that time I was trying to build my academy and was more concerned about my students and doing what's right for them. So, plus, I mean, going and touring in Japan for 6 months, not really a married man thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, right, but these are opportunities that people sometimes look back on and say, do you regret them? No. Okay, I made my decision at the time, and I stand over it, and that's it.
I think it's important, like, something else that you would have taught me is to be just what you're just saying there is, once you make the decision, there's nothing you can do about that. When you make the decision and you go with it, you can't go back 6 months now and go, actually, you know what, I probably should have done X, Y, and Z. I remember when I came back from England, we talked about it, and I think a lot of people miss that. They wish they had done something, especially in the fitness and martial arts arena. People wish they had started earlier, so they don't start at all. And you're thinking, look, you can't change your past. You can't go back and change that decision, but you can learn how to live with it and move forward. So the fact that you even had that, because as a young person who used to watch, like, grew up watching wrestling, I knew that Japan was if you can get to Japan as a wrestler, you're probably going to progress on from there. On a side note, did you have a wrestling name?
Yeah. It was the Ultimate Warrior.
That's quite a good name. He was a good wrestler, so.
He was a good wrestler, but my gimmick, shall we call it that, was the fact that I had shaved head, and I came in with the MMA gloves on, and the volley judo shorts, because I was doing volley judo at that time, and the nice ripped physique and all the rest of it. And it's a lot harder than what you think. It's not choreographed. It's more scripted, as in who's going to win. But I mean, and that's where my Wing Chun, funny enough, my Wing Chun sensitivity really helped me with it. First of all, when you get into the ring, if you don't know how to land and how to fall properly, you're in serious trouble. Mm-hmm. So they say, here's what's going to happen at the start of the fight, and here's going to be the outcome. What happens in between? We'll make it up as we go along, parts of it, and other parts we'll rehearse. Yeah. So when someone's got you in a clinch and they grab your arm like this and they go like that, that means they're about to do something. What? You may have an idea, you may not. So you tense up, and all of a sudden you get hurt.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to go with it, which is another thing I like about. You have to learn to let go. You can't bring an ego into martial arts. Well, and you get a lot of them coming in, and you'll hear me saying these days quite a lot. Don't train on your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your ego at the front door and come in, because it's training ego. Like I've just finished a couple of classes, or the last one was an hour of martial arts flexibility, and I always say to him, don't train on your ego, because what you'll do is you'll see me doing something, there's somebody else, oh, you're going, and you'll go up a bit further and ping, you've just pulled something. Train your own capacity, and why are you looking at this person anyway? If you're trying to be the best version of yourself, why are you comparing yourself to the person beside you? You're trying to be the best version of you, then just get on with you have enough to do with getting on with this without worrying about that.
Yeah.
So and that was through BJ Back, who was a wrestler, and my background in Olympic freestyle wrestling was with Master Dave Finlay, who is the father of Dave Fit Finlay of WWE fame, and Dave Fit Finlay, son, is actually now a very prominent wrestler, actually in Japan, funny enough.
He's Dave as well. They didn't go too far with the names.
Well, there's a funny story about that, because whenever Dave's actually, the thing about it is, when you're doing it, I was introduced as a shooter. And I've been a bit ignorant at the times. You're like, well, what does that mean? Well, basically it means, like, if they start their antics, Tom, you're not some 6 foot plus guy who hasn't quite made basketball school and has went to wrestling for and learned a few moves, and whatever he does. And you can actually do it. So all the Dave Fit Finlays are all shooters. They're all fantastic wrestlers. But Dave, the youngest of the three of them, was with his grand. That's his grand, obviously my coach in the academy. And young Dave and I was talking. He's here. I'll tell you what. See, when I get married and I have kids, I'll not be calling my kid Dave. I'll tell you that. And I leaned into his ear and I said, "Will I tell you something? You ever heard of Shirley Crabtree?" He says, even if your kid's a girl, you'll be calling it Dave no matter what." Because that's the lineage, It's not a lot of people know. It's the same. I've tried to get that lineage as well. There's a lineage of Thomas comes down,
Cool.
Stuff. But more importantly, you would think Thomas, no. There's a lineage of Frederick, which is my father's name, who sadly passed away. So I'm called Thomas Frederick. Okay, and my other son's called Lee Frederick. Yeah, and then my grandson. Okay, his name is actually Freddie. It's on his birth certificate as Freddie.
Cool.
As our first grandkid, and they asked, he was being called Nigel after his other grandfather, and we're going to call him Thomas as well. And I said no. It would really make my day if we called him Freddie after my father, which would be his great granddad. So there is that, and I think that's a thing that's missed in the martial arts these days as well. That finding that person to pass it on to.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when the right student comes along, the right coach will present himself. And then they'll match, and that'll be it, and then off you go with that. Yeah, this is what I mean by this like attracts like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when Dave, I think is he called Dave Jr. or was he just called Dave at the time? Finlay. I was there whenever he was over. Was it at one of the stages? I remember I'll call it wrestling with him, but I was like a rag doll, and he was just like. What was annoying was he was so gentle with me. And I was like, I would prefer you be rough, so at least I feel like I'm trying. But he was just like putting me down and just.
It's a bit like Master Jack Munford, my catch as catch can wrestling coach. I never was beat up as nice in my life. I look up and there's this wee man, without being disrespectful. Dave's not a big man either.
No.
But both Dave is loving the bits. He's in his 80s now, and he would still,
Yeah.
There's an interesting story actually. We had him training every Saturday, but also he did a class before he came. And Dave, very regimental, and say the class started at 12 o'clock. He'd be standing ready with his gear on 5 to 12 as we were all going on the other class. But this particular day, he was standing there halfway through the first class, like at sort of 11:15 or something. What's going on here? What's going on here? Blah, blah, blah. So he is like that, where he wants to pass the things down, and he would have came at the right time or came earlier, like yourself, interested in what you have to do. I remember he's another, again, not name dropping, but just paying respect to my coaches. Coach Eric Poulsen, again, Master Eric. Again, Dave, I showed him some stuff for him. He says, Tom, no, and then it's kind of ironic, but I do combat submission wrestling, Olympic freestyle wrestling. I do Kushti wrestling with Master Paul Whitrod. Okay, and I do catch-can wrestling with Eric as well. Okay, but anyway, the story goes that this is what I mean. I don't know what age I was, quite old. Anyway, and at the end of one of the Saturday morning classes, I always give Coach a hug, give him a kiss on the top of the head. See you next week, Coach. Maybe phone you during the week, usual. And no, you'll not see me next week. Right? Okay. Well, are you busy or what? No, I won't be back. What? I won't be back. What do you mean? And just walked off.
Right.
My students were watching me, and apparently I was like, what? And so, of course, first thing you do is turn to your students. What the hell did any of you say to him? We didn't say anything, so coach. The next thing you do, doors open, apparently my face. Oh, I knew you were only joking. I wasn't joking at all. Just come back to tell you something. He says, you have everything from me you need. You don't need me anymore. Go and make it your own.
Yeah.
And have a nice one, and left. And I didn't see him for years upon years. And I thought to myself, that's not the best thing ever happened.
No.
But actually, it was the best thing ever happened. Because what he done was, it's a bit like a rite of passage again. Right, I've taught you this and taught you this. Right, now make it yours. He just passed it down. Now make it yours. So the only way it's going to get was make it. It's a bit like this situation that we're in at the moment with this pandemic. I've been telling my students for years, and you were slightly different. And what I mean by that was, I've been telling people for years, whenever you're shadow boxing, whenever you're doing anything, solo training, we have a 4-stage procedure to sparring. 1 solo, 2 is partner, 3 is live, and 4 is free. But your solo training and your partner, or so your solo training, your free training is your self-expression of what your coaches have taught you, not a robotic style. Yeah. So you were different for whatever reason. I don't know, probably why, would have said, right, I want you to visualize your opponent in front of you. And people just turn to me and go, excuse me, what? And then we're talking X amount of years ago when all this hypnotherapy and everything else wasn't big news. Visualize your opponent in front. How do you do that? And I remember thinking to myself, how do you do what? Just imagine there's a person. Oh, look, there's a guy who's threw a punch. That was a nice cross right. Did you not see it? No? Okay. What? And I used to do a trick where I used to stand at a wall. And the wall was here, and I had people and I was shadow boxing this guy here. And people used to stand there and I said, can I help you? Oh, I didn't want to disturb you with this. Were you with someone? I said, come here. And then I walked around behind the wall. There was nobody there. Oh, I could have swore behind you. And I said, that's correct. And that's what shadow boxing or shadow fighting should look like. And you were different because for whatever reason, you were able to visualize, and it was part of your training. So the point I'm making is, in this pandemic we're in at the moment, it's actually, they have no choice now, because I'm like we are now. I do a lot of Zoom classes, and I'm saying to them, visualize the guy in front of you. There's no choice now, they have to. So it's actually accelerated their learning. So it's been, for us, it's been a very, very positive experience.
I think that idea, when you explained it to me, it made sense, because I was the same as you. I didn't ask as many whys before I met you, and now, as knowing you, I have annoyed every instructor I've ever had by they teach a subject, and then I go, why. Like I remember when I learned hypnotherapy for the first time, and we were taught a 4-part process, and I went, why? I'm sure I could just skip part 1 and part 3 and do 2 and 4, and the same result will happen. So whenever you were saying
You
to me,
should
because
you should question everything.
yeah, that's why I do. And I remember when you said about the visualize the opponent in front of you, I didn't have to ask why, because you explained, and then that's why then when I go into anything, at my visualization has always been pretty strong in general, but because of the why, like I wanted to know why am I standing like this? Whenever we did the wooden dummy, for example, after like I battered it for years on my own before you said, you don't, this, like when you did the first 3 movements, I was like, no, that's not the form. And then you asked me to show you what I do, and I did my 3, and you were like, that's the same thing, but you're trying to smash the dummy, and I'm flowing the move. And
But that's just down to lack of understanding, as you said,
yeah,
and people need to understand, like that's why we said why. Yeah. So, the wooden dummy, and people don't even realize this, the wooden dummy will give you a certain amount of arm and leg conditioning.
Mhm.
But actually, the way I teach the wooden dummy, what the wooden for, it's like a protractor, it rectifies angles. So a protractor rectifies angles. The wooden dummy will rectify angles of attack. So I'll say to some guy, I can hit this every bit as hard as what you can, and you can hit it every bit as hard as what I can, but there's less chance of me hurting myself because I'm attacking it correct.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. You're coming at the right angle. And that's what I mean by you have a philosophy where path of least resistance. So the way isn't free, you make it free, but then that's not the path of least resistance. Instead of trying to make that way free, why not come in this way at an angle? But that's your footwork, which has a team in any art. But
yeah,
whatever art it is you're doing, okay, people make a thing far too complicated.
Mhm.
It's in any art, okay. So what you do is you look. There's only, for instance, there's only so much good stuff to go around. So there's going to be similarities, all right. So I would say to people, get yourself a core art and really understand that core art. And if you really understand that core art, excuse me, you'll understand all the rest of them. There's only 10 directions you can go in. So when someone tells me they've got 2,000 kicks in their art, I'm going to say you're talking rubbish. Because, tell me them. Well, we've got a front kick and a jumping front kick. No, stop. Take a jumping bit out. It's just a variation of a front kick. There's only 10 directions you can go in, son. So think about that. No matter what art you're doing, I don't care what it is, you can only be attacked from 10 directions. So what now? Instead of worrying about all these millions of techniques and things, I'm worrying about 10. So for instance, what I'd say to guys is close your eyes and visualize 10. Most people can do that, like 10 people, 10 trees, 10 whatever. Okay. Now, then to make it complicated again, close your eyes and visualize 100. I can't do that. You can visualize 10, can't you? So why not visualize 10 piles of 10 coins? That's 100 to get it back to the tens again. I never thought of that. And that's the problem with simplicity. Okay. I think it was Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate complication. People, because we're adult and we're supposed to have an education, we think we're so, whatever this means, smart. Actually, we're not smart at all. Okay, we need to realize this is why we've been very blessed for grandkids. We get to do it all over again. And you're seeing them coming up, that's, wow, this is like amazing. And what do they do? Why? So that's, and then it gets to the point where don't ask me, ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your granddad, ask the cat, ask the dog, ask Aunt, don't ask, look it up on Google. I've had enough. Okay. But the thing about it is, nowadays, when I answer questions on, I'd say, I will answer you that question based on my experience of it.
Mhm.
So, and I'll answer it truthfully, which is more important. Okay, so you answer the question truthfully based on experience. If you don't have the experience, that's why you're going to a coach to get the experience. Yeah. And then from that, you're then told, right now, you question that. okay, that's what it means to me. What does it mean to you? So for instance, I would say, this is the way that I like to do it. Now that's misinterpreted into, this is the way you have to do it. That's not what I said. This is what I like to do. And this is not the definitive way of doing it. This is but an example. Now you find your way. But I want to do it like this. I could put you on the conveyor belt here, bring you up here as a black belt, and you'd be brilliant, but you'd be a robot. You couldn't call yourself a martial artist. And that goes against everything that I believe in. I think we're all very precious, unique individuals. Why do I want to be this person?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love whenever you explain the 10 directions to me, and I've used that in a lot of my talks and stuff, because most people, and I know people listening to this too, will be thinking 10 directions, and they'll do their wee quick math and they'll go, I know 8. The compass is 8. Where is he getting the other 2 directions out of? And then when you go, it's up and down. Oh, like it's something so simple, but like you said, we're supposed to be smart. We overlook the simplicity of, well, up and down our directions, and then that's it. Like I remember having an experience when I went over to England, and people tell me one day that they asked what sort of training I had done, and I was saying I was doing a bit of Wing Chun, and they told me, oh, Wing Chun's shite. And I was like, why, or can you elaborate on that? And they were like, no, it's no good. But I knew the art that they did. It was a five ancestors system. And I said to them, show me the last 3 moves you do in your form. And they did it. And then I showed the last 3 moves in the first Wing Chun form, and they're exactly the same. And I'm like, and the statement that you said it earlier as well is, there's only so much good stuff to go around. There's only so much the body is actually capable of doing. So why everybody is so argumentative in general about just martial arts, I think, like, what is the best art in the world? What is the best? It's down to the person who trains the art, who practices it, and the mentor that they've had. And again, it's why that I was able to connect so well with you, because you knew the physical side of the art, but also the spiritual side of the art, the mental side of the art, which is, like you say, that's what most people aren't martial artists. They're people who learn techniques or who want to be fighters, but they don't understand like, what are you going to do? Like, whenever I was going to say whenever I'm your age, but that would have been rude. Whenever,
well, that's true.
When I'm slightly older, am I going to be able to maintain? If I didn't meet you and I'm still smashing a wooden dummy, like, I would have broke eventually something. I'm just lucky nothing got damaged in the meantime. So the fact that
what you've got to ask yourself, sorry for interrupting, is this: the physical body, you're going to be at some point. You must realize there's always going to be somebody faster, somebody bigger, somebody stronger. At some point, you have to realize that. Maybe some people even realize that at the start. This is why they get into it. I remember one time I was in a private lesson at my house, and this guy phoned me up and blah, blah, blah. And he came up, and he was about maybe 5'4" or something like that. And I was standing on my front doorstep. My front doorstep was maybe about 6 or 7 inches or whatever. And he went, oh, I'm sorry, you're not what I was expecting. I said, I'm awful sorry to disappoint you, son, but what were you expecting? Well, the way you were talking on the phone about softness and using our person's force, I was expecting a wee man, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And actually that's worked for me, because we were trying to get that idea of working our way through. So then what happens is this, and we'll just give a blanket statement here. So we're not saying it happens all the time. So don't be, I don't want people misconstruing what I'm saying, but what I'm trying to get across is, when you actually realize, oh, this guy's stronger than me, and what you go back to the gym, and you see it all as physical, and you lift some more weight, and you do, I've got stronger, go back again, and you're like, this guy's still stronger than me, and you go, yep. So you go back to the gym again, but you can only go back to the gym so many times, and then you might say, cheat, sure, we'll just leave it at that. You might cheat then you go back to the gym and he's still stronger than you, and you're like, what's going on here? Well, one, as I said earlier on, not sure before the interview or during it, but if you want to be a grappler, okay, you grapple. The best training for grappling is grappling. There's no substitute for grappling. I've got friends of mine, and they can outlift me in the gym, no problem. I couldn't tell you the last time I lifted a weight. I had a friend, Mark, and he bench pressed 200 kilo for a laugh. Now that's serious lifting, big
Yeah.
powerlifting. At that time, I was 100 kilo. He said, I want to show you grappling. He just thought he was going to come on the mat. And I threw him about the place like a wet lettuce, like bumming and blowing. And he showed me, just literally picked me up and threw me out. And he, what's wrong here? And he said, why are you so strong in the mat? Because I'm a grappler.
Yeah.
You're gym strong. Right. Plus as well, obviously I'm using a lot of Wing Chun in my grappling, the sensitivity training and so on and so forth, which is a product that I'm working on at the moment actually. We'll come back to that another time. But you're using the leverage, you're using this, you're using that, and you're using the sensitivity. But what I was doing was using my mind. So once you go past the physical, then you go to the mental, and then you go from the mental, you go to the spiritual. Now the spiritual can be fighting spirit, your will to live. Okay, so I remember Coach Eric, when I was talking to him, we had some nice chats all the time, and he was saying, and he was doing the Shudo in Japan, they talked about this, and they actually trained it, the fighting spirit, because it's part of the code, shall we say.
Yeah.
And that I'm into all that sort of stuff, but I say I'm a modern day traditionalist. What I mean by a traditionalist is I believe in the old traditional values and so on and so forth. Trust and integrity and discipline and honor and all this, loyalty. But if it's a more modern, proven, scientific way of achieving the same result quicker and better, then the hell with tradition, because then you're not really a martial artist. I'll give you an example. There's something on Facebook, and if you ever see me and my wife, we go out for walks every morning. Great to get out in the countryside, get the fresh air, take in the scenery, take some pictures, have a chat, put the word to rights. Yep. Never will you ever see my wife walking on the roadside, ever. You'll always see me on the roadside. And somebody put something on Facebook recently about, wasn't to me, it was a picture. And it was like an old man like myself walking beside his wife. But then they showed you another picture, and it was the other way around. And they said, only if you're of a certain age will you get what's wrong with this photograph. Any gentleman would never let a female, I'm not being sexist here, by the way.
Yeah,
but
no, yeah.
That's, and my father, as I say, if I could be half a gentleman, he was, so that's, things like that. That's what I mean by being old school and traditional. But it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I had a seminar in the academy, and Coach Eric was teaching, and I was helping him to teach. And he came over to me. We taught some stuff, and he came over. I need to have a word with you. I says, why? He says, Tom, he says, you're talking here about the old school, the old school, the old school. Ah, yeah. He says, look, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. What's that? He says, see this old school you're talking about? Most of the people in this building have no clue who you're talking about. And to be honest with you, most of the people in here probably don't even know who I am. They're here because of you. He says, listen to you, tell you something, son. You are the old school now. You keep talking about old school, it's great, you've got that. He says, but you are the old school now. And I went, no, yes, you're the old school now. And it took a while for that to sink in, but you sort of realize, I don't like it. I still come to terms, I don't like it, because, it's like, in the Wing Chun system, the Chum Sut Wing Chun system that we teach, as you know, all the other arts that we teach in the academy, we have got a 4-stage, you've got an apprentice level, an intermediate technician level, advanced technician level, and a skilled practitioner. And all of my senior, why do you not call you, where's the master levels? We don't have master levels.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic, but if you looked up skilled and practitioner, probably the word master would come in. And then I watched through, and I'm reading now about all these fake Chinese, and then they're not allowed to call themselves master anymore.
Yeah.
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 Well, the proof's in the pudding. My attitude was how do you this work? Step on the mat, step in the cage, step on the street, and we'll find out. Where nowadays, how do you know this work? Based on my experience, I know it works. Never let me down. Prove it. No, it's like one of my young students come in one day, was quite irate and not mention any names. You okay? You okay? No, no, I let myself down a bucket full there. Why did somebody throw a punch at you? What happened? No, no, it was just all the words. What? What happened? He's a Christian. And I said to him, oh, you believe in God, and quite ignorant to him, actually. If you don't believe in God, that's fair enough. You do believe in God, that's fair enough. You believe in someone else, that's fair enough. Whatever you believe in, I wish you all the happiness in the world, and I pray that you're, getting what you're looking for. He said, I couldn't answer the question. I says, what was the question? He says, if you believe in God, prove there is one. And I says, why do you not say, if you believe there isn't one, prove there isn't one?
Yeah.
And that's the simplicity of what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Go ahead, sorry.
It's like with when I first started with martial arts as well, it was always like, how do you know that one works? Has that everything has to be proven to be right, but if it's your belief system, then I don't see, like, I'm with you on that. I don't see why you have to disprove or prove your belief system. If you believe in it, it's like pointless trying to.
Prove it. It's again, prove it to yourself, and then you start to wise up. You start to realize my knuckles is getting a bit sore now these days. No.
Maybe this age is creeping in on you.
Yes, probably is. But people say, have you mellowed? I say, have I mellowed, or have I got some realizations and wised up to the fact that why do I have to prove myself to every single person I meet?
Yeah.
And I used to, falling out with people and doing this. I mean, I get caught up in the perfectionist syndrome a lot of years ago, and I nearly set myself to the nut house, and my wife and everybody else along with me. So I'm speaking from experience, and so anybody, if I'm going to follow someone or someone's going to coach me, I have a plan, I have a destination, and I want the person that's going to be teaching me to either have reached that destination and come back, or is further along the path than I am. I don't want some 17-year-old life coach. What's that about? He hasn't even lived his life, and he went on a weekend course on the internet or something. He's a life coach.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat. But personally, okay, and I'm not saying that person has to be older than you. What I'm saying is they have to be further along this path that you're traveling.
Mm-hmm. It has to be experience with what you're talking about. Like whenever, just if we go back to when you were saying about the guy that landed to your house, when we first spoke on the phone, I thought the same. I was thinking, I'm going to get this wee gentle man who's probably smaller than I am, and he's going to be airy-fairy about the art, because you talked about softness and flow and movement and everything. And then whenever I looked you up then before, I asked a couple of my friends, did anybody want to come with me? Because it was a big drive, and I thought it would save me on petrol money if I could bung more people in the car. And like that was when I came across your Valley Tudo stuff, like the Brazil. When was the Brazil one? That's
a long time ago, another life, 2001.
Yeah, so it would have been that one, and then it was armbar. You beat a Brazilian by armbar, wasn't that it?
Yeah, there was a place called Recife. It was the World Valley Tudo Championships. It was bare knuckle, headbutts, kicks in the groin, soccer kicks. And it was one 30-minute round.
Most people hate going to the gym for 30 minutes, never mind getting in a cage for...
We were talking about this the other day. It's kind of funny because my wife and I, Rosemary, we just love holiday. We're not really holiday people, but we like a night away here and a night away there. Down to Enniskillen, nearly your neck of the woods, down to Lusty Bay, around that sort of place, or we like Gadsworth, we like walks. But again, it's a very, not monastic, but a very simplistic life that I lead. This is why, I think this idea of if you never had it, you never miss it.
Yeah.
So, the reason I'm bringing that up is because, when I hit Brazil, I opened the doors of the plane. I thought the engine was still going, the humidity was just hitting what was wrong, and we arrived, I think it was on the Tuesday, and the fight was on the Saturday. We got this beautiful hotel, and the first thing I wanted to do was, is there a gym somewhere? We're warm. No, it's not a gym. They give us this room, much bigger than this room at the minute. And I want to hit the pads. I think I did jab, cross, kick, right, jab, cross, right, kick, which is that's my mark when I was fighting. And I thought I was going to die. I couldn't even breathe. It was just the humidity. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And right there and then, I was so glad of all the training that I'd done. And I said to the guys who was with me, Paddy, this is supposed to last 30 minutes. It isn't going anywhere near 30 minutes. Someone's going, he's going down or I'm going down. I'm not staying out there for 30 minutes. And I can't remember what the thing was, but some say it was a couple of minutes, some say it was 5 minutes. But it was the local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor for Shifi. It didn't go down terribly well, let's put it that way. It was a bit of an experience for a few seconds after the fight was over and I had won. Especially going to no holds barred capital of the world and beating them at their own game was a big thing then. But I mean, it's just that he's news now, and it's kind of ironic. You sort of do all of that, and on the way home, I remember we stopped off in Portugal. The plane stopped in Portugal and had to get the other connecting flight. I had 2 days to rub together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about big money fights or whatever. Yeah. It was just, right, I need to go. And that actually came about because in some of your other podcasts, you're talking about, disappointments and stuff like this here. That actually came about after I had challenged Dexter Casey for the British title, which I lost. But because of that fight actually got me to receive it.
Yeah.
So kind of ironic, because it's just the way things work out. So as a fighter, it's like you just take what's there and you fight. The fight's a fight, isn't it? Whether it's in Brazil or where it's in the middle of Belfast, a fight's a fight. The only difference in a sport fight is you know who you're going to be fighting and you can prepare for it.
Yeah, that was what I thought was mad then, because I landed to you and I was like, this guy fought bare knuckle in Brazil and beat the Brazilians at their own game. And then when you put your hands on me, I was like, I can't. You were so light. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get anywhere near you. But there was no effort. And I remember trying to explain it to my guys down when I was teaching down here in Oma. And it ended up where I just asked you, could I book in the 10 of them to come up? I was like, I can't get this across to people. They're trying to bowl their way through all of this. And we're going to go, and they'd seen photos of me and you, and they were like, we're going to go up and train with this big giant, and he's going to overpower us all. And then you do the hands-on, and you can't, like, it's like that wee story you used to tell about the bird trying to fly off the palm of the old master. Yeah. And I was trying to explain that to everyone, that it's not the strength that's going to freak you out. It's going to be how soft and like lack of strength. I can't even think of how to word it. It was just, that's probably why I had to book in with you. I could not explain it to the guys that they didn't need force for everything.
You've been involved in martial arts quite a period of your adult life, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some people are, depending on who you speak to, well, you learn the hard first and then you learn the soft, or you learn the soft first and then you learn the hard. Either way you do it, you've got to learn both, because you don't have balance.
Yeah.
So we're back to this thing, balance. I keep talking about this thing, balance, but you got to have balance in your life.
Yeah.
And then martial arts is supposed to give you that.
That's the difference. Like you said, there's a difference between doing martial arts and being a martial artist. That's, for me, became the key when I started to train with you, that it was about making it a lifestyle. And it's why now, like in my career, dramatically changed from being someone who wanted to be a martial arts coach to public speaking. But I use some of the techniques that you taught me to show people that strength can come from anywhere. I use the philosophy when I'm thinking about my stories and what I'm going to get across to the companies and stuff that I work with, I use martial arts philosophy to get it all across. So for me, it was about trying to get it into my life, and that's why, like, I continued to train with you, and I would have seen you as, yes, a coach and a mentor, but a friend as well. Like, I could have just texted you, and when I started to get into public speaking, I would land down in a 3-piece suit just on my way home from Belfast, just to be in the environment. And people who had never seen me would go, are you lost? I'm like, no, I just want to, probably sounds weird now when I think of it, but like, no, I just want to watch seafood.
It's what you're saying there. I have a guy at the moment who trained with me 25 years ago, and he's come back.
Yeah.
And he's some similar, and different guys doing different things. But as I said earlier on, it's like you're teaching, but once people get from you what they want, then they can move on.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of problem with a lot of coaches, and a lot of, not just martial arts coaches, but like coaches in general, if they get this attachment, and I had it as well, where they take it as a personal insult.
Yeah.
You put all this work into this person, and then they just leave. And you do. I had to go through it. You do take it personal, mm-hmm. But nowadays I just go, okay, that person has came in, they've got what they wanted, they go somewhere else, fine.
Yeah.
And it's from I was no age. I was talking to one of my other coaches as well. In the lockdown, I started doing one-to-ones with a guy in London, not to do martial arts, but for my own personal development and stuff like this here. Anyways, and it's people. It's from as no age. I think this idea of I had this idea for a book. It's called Letting Go of Holding On. I never really knew what that meant.
Yeah.
Until I started getting studies and looking at you're letting go. People hold on to everything. It's like it's like stress and anxiety and all that sort of kind. It's like they have this rucksack in their back. There's a bit of stress, put it in the rucksack. There's a bit of this, there's a bit of that. And take the bloody thing off and set it down, let it go. But no, they want to hold on. They're complaining about it, but at the same time they're holding on to it. So it's letting go, holding on. So it's like a wonderful story of a woman that really sums it up. And that's what I mean by martial arts. You've got to let go of that holding on, let go of that ego. Why are you holding on to that ego? It's holding you back. You're never going to be able to do this. Like you know yourself, the biggest fear surrounding failure is actually the fear of failing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this story goes, this girl, she's going home, but she was late, and she decided to cut to the graveyard. And when she's running to the graveyard, she fell down one of the holes. She scrambles and grabbed on the grass to keep herself up. And this, that, now, and she held on, and she shouted out, and no one could hear. It was in the middle of a graveyard in the middle of the night, till eventually she had to let go, and she fell 1 foot. If I had known that, I'd have let go. Yeah. So this is what I mean by experience. Mm-hmm. You're guided, okay, by the experience. So you do know that, so you can let go. But even at that, people still hold on. It's called attachment.
I think training with you, like you were saying there about people get what they want. I think some people get what they want and then they move on and forget it. But personally, when I trained with you, I got what I needed, not what I wanted. So what I originally wanted from you was to become this fighter. And then, like, we learned that I'm the least competitive person you'll ever meet. I don't like fighting. I'm not a violent person. Not that sort of, but you know what I mean? It just wasn't what I wanted. But the stories and the philosophy and the fact that all of your training, like, I loved that it was rooted in traditional, and I love the fact that you were, like you say, a modern day traditionalist. That's where I saw myself then, and again, it's where I see myself now. It's what I've done. I use martial arts more in my words than I do physically now, but that sort of leads me to, because I'm going to round up soon, because I'd love to get you back again, so I don't want to make this one too long, but when you're saying, when we're saying,
you're the epitome there of what we just talked about. So it's proud moment to be able to call you a friend and a student or whatever, because the martial arts is in your blood and in your bones now. So
on my walls,
it's there.
everywhere.
So that's what you're doing. You know, because and what you just said, there's the ultimate. You're learning how to fight so you don't have to. And when people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Every time I say, people say, you're learning how to fight, you don't have to. And say, what's the point in that? And you go, that is the point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. When I started, I thought, sorry to interrupt you, but when I started, I thought learning how to fight so you don't have to meant I would be so good that if anything kicked off, I would just like knock the person out immediately. So it wouldn't be a fight. And then as you taught me and trained me, I was like, oh, it doesn't mean that. That's not what that means at all.
Well, how many cliches are there? You know, I used to be like, oh, I'll give you an example. Oh, fighting's like a game of chess, isn't it, Tom? Yeah, and then I'd explain to him what it meant. Nowadays, people say to me, fighting's like a game of chess, Tom, is it? And I go, what do you mean by that? Oh, you know what I mean? No, I know what I mean. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're quoting quotes there, trying to make yourself look smart, and you don't even know what it means.
Yeah.
Oh, the best defense is attack. Why are you teaching defense first then? What? Well, if you believe, and what do you mean by attack? You're just randomly quoting things.
Yeah.
Do a bit of research, son. In fact, get your t-shirt on, get your gear on, and get into the gym. Do a bit of sweating. And the best, you know what you want to do? You want to have a spring clean your brain. You want to mentally clean your brain, blow out the cobwebs. That's what you need to do. People's brain up here, and they're, you know, would you believe, you know, the amount of people I've spoke to, and you're talking about mental training, and you go, now, I'm talking about your brain here. I'm not talking about your mind. What? I'm talking about your brain. I'm not talking about your mind. Is that the same thing, Tom? And you're like, oh, jeez. No. But donkeys years ago, I taught it, as you know. But nowadays, it's great. You can say, so you think your mind and your brain's the same? Well, of course it is. Okay, you've got a phone there? Yes, get that phone. Google me a picture of your brain. No problem. There you go. Right. Google me a picture of your mind. I'll wait.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, the mayor may not have, it's quite frightening for them. They might have a wee eureka and go, oh, I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think? But then again, they just accepted that they did no research.
They didn't think.
You know, it's a bit like, you know, why'd you do that? I don't know. I wasn't thinking. Well, of course you weren't, because you were thinking you wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. I remember.
This is why I think I said to you before about what I'm trying to teach you is the art of thinking without thinking.
Yeah.
And people are like, that doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to you because you're not prepared to put the work in. But you're prepared to put the work in, it'll make more sense.
You used to ask the question, I think the whole thing was just, again, expand in your mind. One of your questions used to be, it might still be now, was if I flip a 10p in the air, what is the likelihood of it being a heads or a tail? Or is there any other outcome? And everyone would pick heads or tails, and then you would explain a wee bit more, and then you would say, well, what happens if it gets caught between the crack of the mats and it's stuck sideways? People go, I didn't think of that. You know, like that's the whole, to me, that was the whole point. Like, as silly as that might seem to some people, just a question, or you might be being pedantic or whatever, like the chances of it landing on its age, but there's still a chance. So
well put it another way. People talk about yin and yang. Yeah. How can two be one?
Yeah.
Once you put an and there, it becomes plural, becomes two. So yin yang is supposed to be oneness. So you've just said yin and yang. Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be oneness. How can there be oneness and you've got two-ness?
Yeah.
See that quote we talked about there? There's not a head and a tail. There's a head tail on one coin. There's a head and a tail. Where's the? Do you know what I mean, Tom? Don't you? And back in the day, I'd explain. Now did I school him? No, I don't. You explain to me now.
Yeah.
It's great. So instead of them coming to me to get an explanation, they come and ask the question, and I go, "What? Well, ask yourself the question. What does it mean to you? Why don't ask me what does it mean to me? What does it mean to you?" So I'm in the business of trying to teach people how to think rather than teaching what to think. And how to think is for yourself. This is what you've done, which is fantastic. I mean, you've gone on and helped lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And people may not see it as a martial arts thing, but I've followed what you've done, and I'm not just saying I really like what you're doing,
Thank you.
because you're helping people. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people. You've got to realize people coming into your gym. Everybody, it's a very, very small percentage of people who want to be a fighter. So with us, it's combat, battle tested, combat ready. You're left in no uncertain terms. What you're going to do works. Why?
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, it works. So, but there's also get the guy who just wants to get out of the house for an hour and comes down and he's never going to be a fighter. He's never going to, but that's what I mean to say you can't fight. And then this, like you said earlier on before it happens, we'll talk about it again at some point. Does Wing Chun work in a real fight? Don't even come near me with that question. You know what I mean? I've been doing so long now, it's never, ever let me down. And I'm in the process of doing the Chum Sut combative curriculum for Wing Chun, the Chum Sut Wing Chun combative curriculum. And I can tell you something now. Okay, after one lesson in apprentice level 1, if you can pass it, okay, people will have no uncertain terms. Wow, what is that? That's Chum Sut Wing Chun. So brilliant. I think Wing Chun gets a bad name, but then again, I have another book that I'm going to write as well. It's called Lamont, the Man, the Myth, the Arsehole. So I'll keep everybody happy, yeah.
Where can we find that book?
I just have the titles of these things. I don't have any. I have a free ebook coming out soon, so it's coming out hopefully. It's about 95% ready now, so it'll be coming out quite soon. So
brilliant.
And then on top of that, there'll be a product. The first product will probably be I've got to fill up it's behind me here. You can probably see loads of books and what have you behind me here. You should be studying. It's not all physical. You're studying, doing whatever, and meditating and doing what you're doing. But anyways, it's all laid out. So just kind of when this pandemic goes over, get back into the gym and film it, the storyboard, and everything's all done. Just film it, edit it, and get it out there. You know what I mean? So I'll get you a copy of that.
Which further backs your the fact that you're progressing in everything. So you never just stayed as a traditionalist. You've moved modern day traditionalist. So you're even getting into Zoom classes and everything like that. Because at the minute, you can do all that. Like most people would have just sat back and waited. All will be grand. Wait till this is over and start again, start afresh. But just like any challenge, you just took it on as another opponent and went, right, how do we work this out so that it's better for our students and
the
family?
guy I was talking about earlier on, when he talked about IT and this, that, and other thing, one of my students from 20 odd years ago, he's now a student of one of my affiliate clubs, so it's great the way things come around. And I do coach development training. And we do it over Zoom now. And he came on we first did it, he was sitting laughing. I said, "What are you laughing at, Stephen?" He goes, "I can't believe this man who could hardly even spell IT 20 odd years ago is teaching us how to use Zoom." And I goes, "It's great the way things come around, isn't it?" It's just, but what do? You're a martial artist, you adapt, you overcome, you get on with it. Like you say, it's just another opponent. You can lie down and play dead, not really in my genetic makeup. I fight. It's an old saying, and it's nice. It's horrible at the same time. I come into this world kicking and screaming, covered in somebody else's blood, and I have no problem getting out the same way. that's fight talk, but nowadays you don't want to go out that way.
So where can everyone find you if they're interested in getting in touch or seeing more of your stuff, or where's the easiest way to go?
If they're interested in trying, you can go to the website. It's chum.co.uk. They can find us on the Chum Sut Facebook page, or they're more than welcome to come onto my own page if you're into martial arts and photographs of country lanes and my grandkids and stuff that goes on like that. There, you're in my own personal page, and we have our own, let's say, Chum Sut page. Or whenever the academy is open again, as I said earlier on, the academy never closed. The building did, because we closed the building on the 13th of March, and on the 15th of March, I was teaching Zoom.
Brilliant.
I'd never even heard of Zoom before the 13th of March. And then, what's this here? And then, lo and behold, here we are tonight. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You can just, wow, you can, I mean, I was, the weekend, or I was doing because obviously you're always trying to improve. I had 4 2-hour sessions on Saturday and Sunday. Yesterday I had a 7:30 in the morning to 9:30, 2-hour session with one of my coaches. And then I had an 8-hour walk, some lunch, and then another 2 hours with him in the afternoon. Fantastic. Because of this stuff here, wow.
Yeah.
You know, where you don't have to get on a plane, you can just, wow, he's there right in front of you. It's fantastic, amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we do, you know, as well. And it's you know, it's, for me, the pandemic, you know, obviously it's there, but this experience has enhanced my, you know, my ability
Coaching.
to coach. Because it's a bit like whenever you're if you're only a one-dimensional approach to coaching and one of the students isn't getting it, then that's your beat. So you should use your martial arts to come the other way. Mm-hmm. So this is just the same, where we can't, you know, teach it physically. But my students are like this much away from promotion when we get back to the actual building, because they've trained that hard. They can't believe, you know, the best comment I had was the guy who turned around and said, you know, Coach, see if you close your eyes, you'd swear blind you're actually in the building, the way you can generate the enthusiasm, this, that, and the other thing.
That's awesome.
Of course, I have to listen to my 80s music. That's the only downside. But
80s had the best music. It created the best music. 80s, definitely.
80s or 90s trance. I have to listen to that, unfortunately. Kind of I said earlier on, like attracts like, and the coaches that I have. Coach Eric, when we went to America to train in the CSW headquarters, we walked in and 80s music was blasting, and his jokes, believe it or not, are worse, and I mean worse than mine. And I just landed. I thought I had landed in heaven. This is Walton, who was with me, was just like, oh, I don't believe this. And it was just funny. And
Walton thought he was getting a break from it.
We nearly thought at one point we were doing the coach development training, and this big, they were calling me big man, and there's these ex-American linebackers like about this width and about this height, and I had them up on my chest and set them down. And you know, honestly, that organisation, we'll talk about that again now because you got to go. But that's when I sent the TV off, one of the best decisions, and they accepted it. Yeah. The familyhood and everybody backing each other up, and everybody genuinely wanting everybody to improve. It's something like I've never experienced before. It's fantastic, and everybody comes over. It's just whatever, you know. It was him that I had no interest in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu whatsoever, because I said earlier on it was freestyle and all the other freestyle wrestling and catch can wrestling. And he came to me one day and he said, "See that grip strength of yours? What? I'm not. I thought he was going to. I'm not trying to be." He said, "I know you're not. That's the thing about it. That you'd be fantastic at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu." All right, okay, but I wrestle. Put this gi on and let me see what you can do. So basically, I just wrestled in a gi.
Yeah.
And I think it was a couple of years later, he presented me with my blue belt.
Brilliant.
Then when I went to a couple of years after that, actually I was in Rick Young's place, another fantastic coach, really talented, super guy. Him and I go back a long way, and
have DVDs of Rick Young.
He hasn't changed much. He holds the same as we do coach development. He holds it over there in his academy, and I was awarded my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there last Christmas. Because Tom being Tom, he put all the blue belts, right, spar, do this, do that. I'm like, right, bye. Where are you going? I'm going up this end of it. That's all the brown belts, the black belts. Yeah, that's where I want to go. I want to. You got it. Here's what happens.
Yeah.
You move on. Okay.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. And I got awarded my purple belt. But you still have to do stuff. And then we'll have a laugh about it because, like, right, you do realize now, because of you, I had no interest in this, but now you're getting up to the belts. Now that's, well, you have to finish the journey now, so to speak. Yeah. You have to get the prepared black belt, you know, but it's not about, for me, I think, you know, if you go chasing after, we'll leave it at this, if you go chasing after the belt, when you get the belt, that's it. So these days I go chasing after knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get knowledge.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Tom. I, as always, love our talks, but this one was extra special because it's been a while since we got to catch up. So I will put all the links below so everyone can find you, and we will definitely do this again. So once again, thank you very much.
No, thank you. And as I say, as Billy Connolly says, thank you for listening to my name drivel. Another genius, shall we say. It was a pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job, helping a lot of people and to better their lives and be the best version of themselves. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll speak to you soon, buddy. Cheers.